thank you so much for the introduction, Natasha. I'm Theo Smith, as you already mentioned, and today I'm going to be talking about my passion. Well, one area of my passion, neurodiversity, right? I wrote a book on it, kind of accidental during COVID. I found myself a bit down and a bit depressed and struggling a bit with work as a head of recruitment and didn't know what to do. So I thought, hey, why don't I write a book? Because that's what every dyslexic does, don't they? They do the exact thing they can't do, right? So I failed at school, I struggled in life academically, and I got into a lot of trouble. And then I wrote a book, and here I am. I also have a podcast, Neurodiversity with Theo Smith, and a YouTube channel of the same name, where I share tons of content about this topic. So neurodiversity, what is neurodiversity? Well, neurodiversity is the natural variation of the human brain. Every single one of us has a unique brain. Wow, but you didn't know that. Like a thumbprint, right? Every single one of us has a unique thumbprint. Every single one of us has a unique brain. However, not all of us have been marginalized or system impacted just because of the way that our brain works, right? Not every one of us have been marginalized or system impacted just because of the way that our brain works. And that's what I'm really passionate and interested about. And those people who may be marginalized or system impacted may be autistic or dyslexic or ADHD or have dyscalculia or dyspraxia or a DCD or many other facets or aspects that may have made them struggle in the world that we have built. And why is it important? Well, TikTok says it's important, right? TikTok says it's important. So we know it is. So this was taken around 12 months ago. The stats here, 22.1 billion views of the hashtag ADHD. 22.1 billion. I mean, that's a big number, right? And that was the beginning of the year. 12 months before that, it was half that figure. Half the figure. In 12 months, it went from about 11 billion to 22 billion. So if you think it's a hot topic, it is. TikTok says so. But let me take you back. Let me take you back to the beginning of time, the beginning of human evolution. Well, not even that, the beginning of the planet, right? 4.5 billion years in development. This world we're on, I mean, people can argue around how it was developed, where it came from, but let's just say, on the basis of science, about approximately 4.5 billion years. That's a long time to kind of weed out any problems, any challenges, right? The world has pretty much optimized itself pretty effectively in 4.5 billion years. Right? And neurodiversity, by design, the fact that brains are meant to work the way they're meant to work, right? People will tell you, oh, autism, right? It is a part of our human psyche, our makeup. I'm not impacted by autism, I'm autistic. I'm ADHD, I'm dyslexic. Co-occurrence, right? You're more likely to be more than one if you're one. Right? That is the reality of the situation and something that we've started to learn about in modern times. So the modern human brain, this brain that's in your head now, has had about 200,000 years to develop, right? That's when it started to get big, about 200,000 years ago. Well, in fact, it started to get smaller now, but that's a whole different story for another day, right? So 200,000 years ago, the brain got big. And again, 4.5 billion years, the Earth had developed, 200,000 years, this big brain in your head, right? That's a pretty long time for your brain to optimize to exist in this world that we currently have. Now, the Mexican Tetrache fish. Where's he going with this? I have no idea, right? The Mexican Tetrache fish, right? 20,000 years. It took less than 20,000 years to become blind. Right, now we can make an assumption to feel sorry for the fish and think what trauma affected it, what happened to the fish. But in reality, the fish adapted, it evolved to be blind, to be more competitive, because it's actually about 2 million years ago, it got pushed into the caves of Mexico. But actually, if we look only 20,000 years ago, the cycle happened again, right? This fish has a predisposition to adapt really effectively. But that's 20,000 years. 4.5 billion years, 200,000 years development in the brain, 20,000 years, right? The Mexican tetra blind cavefish became blind to survive because it didn't need its eyesight or eyes in the caves. It needed energy to survive, to make it more sustainable. That made it more competitive. So it wasn't less than for not having eyes. Actually, it was more than within that environment. Environment is really important, you see, into how the brain works. So, 200 years of complete transformation. 4.5 billion years this planet's been evolving, developing, adapting, right? Yet what's happened in less than 200 years is completely transformed on the face of this planet, how it looks, how it responds, how we engage with it. But we all know that from climate change, right? And what's happening, right? 200,000 years of globalization, industrialization, the Internet of Things, vehicles, electric vehicles, AI, machine learning. Wow. Is it not a surprise that the brain struggles with something that we've only created in less than 200 years? When it took 4.5 billion years of development of the planet? When it took 200,000 years of this modern brain to evolve and adapt to the world that we live in? And it took 20,000 years for the tetra-blind cavefish to become blind, to survive? Yet in 200 years, we've completely changed this planet, and we don't consider that in terms of the impact on the human mind. Boom! We don't consider it. We don't consider the stupid place we've made with bright lights and noisy environments and lots of people. We were like chickens in a coop stuffed in going, what is this? Who created this? Like my ancestors, please, why did you? I want to be on a farm somewhere, quietly with animals. No people bothering me. So that is the reality of the human brain. The human brain is responding to an environment that is like a drop in the ocean in terms of time. And we wonder why we struggle. We wonder why our people struggle. COVID has made us go, boom! Fucking hell, yeah, we really do struggle, don't we? Wow, give me a break. And now we have generative AI into the mix, just to shake things up a little. The reality is, one of the biggest challenges we have is communication. And when we think about communication, when we think about the written word, the thing I really struggle with, yet I managed to write a 110,000 word book, did I mention that? Right, that thing, the written word, is actually a fairly modern concept in terms of human development as well. So communication can be really difficult for everybody. We see it within organizations, within teams, but there's something powerful happening. There's something where technology is starting to communicate with us better than we can communicate with ourselves or with others. Whoa! Because of this world that we created. Now I've got this command. What do you call a command? I don't know what you call this thing. Maybe somebody tell me better afterwards. I've got this command that I give to ChatGPT. You will listen to me. You will do this. And this command, right, basically gets ChatGPT to be my coach, but in a really wonderful way. It allows me to formulate my question in a way that it understands. So we'll have a conversation going back and forth. And what it's doing is it's digging deeper to better understand what's going on in my brain so that I can ask it the right question. Wow. And let me tell you why that's really important. Because a lot of the time we struggle to communicate our needs to others. We struggle to be able to tell others what we need to help us be able to perform at our best. And here is technology being able to do that, being able to understand the human that's in front of them by probing. I don't want to be probed. Probing. I don't want to be probed. Probing. But it's not a person, so it's okay. Right? You're not having to stand in front of somebody who may be an authoritative figure like a manager or somebody and ask for help. This piece of technology can give you help. It's not going to make judgment, right? It's just going to ask you questions and more questions and more questions and more questions and more questions until you agree, you've come to a point of understanding, and then you have the definitive question that you present to it, and it provides you with the solution. And you can choose to go, hey, that's rubbish, throw it out the window. You can use it, you can utilize it. So I'm excited by the way the technology, given the right support and investment, can really impact those who've seen barriers within organizations. And the reality is the future of work now. If we look at the types of roles that neurodistinct individuals are going to have, neurodistinct being those people who've faced barriers because of their neurological makeup, right? These are the types of jobs, and this is really important when you consider these jobs in the future of this planet and the future of work. Data analysis and visualization. So we're not just talking about crunching numbers, but think of the variety of data that we're now going to see and consider. That data could be images, that data could be voice, that data could be false images, false voices. And we need people to be able to communicate what that data means, what it looks like. Technology can't always do that in a meaningful way for us. So data analysis and visualization is going to be really important. And we know that cybersecurity, right? Through cybersecurity, organizations can be held to ransom, governments can be held to ransom, individuals can be held to ransom. If you ask me who I want to be responsible for cybersecurity, it's those people who see things in a very linear way. They see it as it is, right? Because I can entrust it in them more than I can entrust it in others. Because they're going to see the truth. They're going to see the truth, and that's really important in the future of this world. Environmental monitoring and conservation. I don't know if any of you saw Chris Packham last night, right? Is it time that we break the law? Is it time to break the law? Because clearly governments feel like they can break the law. Governments feel like they can go against European legislation, right? That's okay. So is it time that we break the law? Environmental monitoring and conservation is going to be really important. And neurodistinct individuals are already at the heart of it. Greta Thunberg, just as an example, and Chris Packham, as I just mentioned. Development of AI and machine learning. As I mentioned, it's going to be powerful, right? It's going to impact, well, it is impacting every facet and aspect of our lives. But if we don't include those people who've been locked out, who potentially think and approach things in a different way, it will further lock those people out of our workplaces, our environments, our societies, our communities, our governments. And it's at this time we need those people most. And virtual reality and augmented reality and the development of that, right? There's a lot that's been talked about this, but we've still not really got to a place of where it's embedded in kind of our normal daily activity in life. But I'll come back to that later on. And this is what it looks like when we consider incredible minds that potentially could be locked out of the wilderness systems. Dr. Mae Jemison, first black woman in space and founder of the 100-year Starship Project. Rosalind Franklin, credited with discovering structure of DNA. Greta Thunberg, climate change activist. Naomi Klein, also journalist, filmmaker, who's focused on social justice and climate change. Some of the most incredible scientists, activists, yes, they're neurodiverse, neurodivergent, neurodistinct, depending on your preference terminology, right? And it transcends gender, race, ethnicity, and age. That is the beauty of the human mind. But we need to lift people up, right? We need to lift people up within our organizations, within our communities, within our environments, within our political systems. We need to lift them up. Every single one of us in here, we need to be responsible for lifting them up. Because otherwise they're going to get locked out. With over 80% of people with an autism diagnosis out of work in the UK today, they are being locked out. And the future of this planet and the world, right, matters. And it matters because people are being locked out. And they shouldn't be. But this is what it can look like when we think about technology, right? Technology is beautiful, right? It's lovely machines. Look at them, aren't they wonderful? But it's not all about that. That's what we see, that's what we might get excited about. But it's not all about the robots. And I work with an organization and their employee resource group. I helped launch their global employee resource group for neurodiversity. They're a tech company. And what happened when they launched our employee resource group, right? That's building the community within an organization, starting the conversation where it wasn't happening before, allowing people to come forward and talk about their challenges of trying to advocate for their autistic child, or talking about their challenges of advocating for their partner or for themselves, right? They can do it in this safe space if it's organized properly. Well, when they set this employee resource group up, what they found almost immediately, members of that group went back into their teams and started talking about this concept. What do you think happened next? Well, they started to embed it within the technology they were building. Not just accessibility, not just around disability, physical disability, but neurological disadvantage, right? And then they started to design technology that would support their autistic child in the classroom. Boom! People want to why. People are fed up of organizations, fed up of working for companies, can't understand their why. Why am I here? Why am I doing this? I might die tomorrow and I'm doing some technology for some YouTuber. They may be doing good things, right? Who knows? But the reality is when you change that to developing technology that directly impacts on your child in the system that they're being locked out of, bang, it changes the dynamics of the work, the role, the organization, the why, the value. And that's why we need to open up these conversations more within organizations. And technology will drive incredible change, assistive technologies, communication platforms, and the data-driven insights that we talked about. But sometimes it's this simple, right? Technology enablement is this simple. Here is how we've written for, I don't know how long, a very long time, right? Even my book's written in this way, right? Bionic Reading. You can find it on TikTok. You can download the app. It's free to use. And all you can see here is the first couple of letters are highlighted. Now, for a lot of people who are dyslexic or ND, they find this much easier to read. I find it more powerful in long-form content. So in emails, I'd rather you just bullet pointed and told me what you needed me to do. Theo, I need you to do this, here's some bullet points. In long-form content, where I'm constantly getting lost and distracted and my brain's all over the place, then this really helps. And even if my brain does go off, which it always does, sometimes in the middle of talking as well, then I can find where I was much easier because of the way that it's highlighted, which is powerful. Look how simple that is. Highlighting a couple of letters, how many more opportunities are there for us to make neurological adjustments that are going to empower people? Dyslexia, can't read, can't spell. Oh, I can read all of a sudden, much better. What did it take? What did it take? Not much. And now we come back to the robot, the lovely shiny robot, right? The beautiful robot that we can get excited about because it can talk and it can walk and it can do these wonderful things, right? But this to me is what technology really means. We can get excited about building it, but what is the impact that that technology has? In a cafe in Tokyo, the avatar robot means that somebody who can't leave their bed can communicate with others. It means that somebody who can't leave their bed can have conversations with others. It means that somebody who can't leave their bed can make a decision to do a role where they can add value, where they can feel a member of society. I mean, this is a trial that's been going on for a couple of years in Tokyo. But this is what technology is about. Enabling people to work within organizations. People who want to work. People who want to be a part of society. People who are autistic don't want to be locked out of society. They don't want to be locked out of jobs. That's not the reality. They're just not being given the gift of a job, right? Like it's a gift. Like they should be so grateful and thankful. We should be doing more. That's the reality. And this is where organizations are doing more. And every single one of us can do more within our organizations. And we can find out why, if we don't already have it. So just to bring this to a close, maybe there is something in what Elon Musk says, right? After all, he's autistic. At least he says he is. He believes we'll fly to the moon, fly to space, live in Mars, for example. The reality is, I think there's probably some truth in what he's saying there. Is if we build the right technology, we enable the right technology, we will ultimately enable people to work wherever they want to work. And it may be augmented reality, sat on Mars with a few people. It may be with no people. It may be on my farm. It may not be a real farm, but I may be there, right? Wherever we want to work, however we want to work, but more importantly, enabling everyone to work, if they should want to work, and giving them the opportunity to add value and feel a member of society. So that is why neurodiversity is so important to me. I do this because I want to empower my daughter, she's 10, and I want to enable her to have opportunities that perhaps missed me. And I don't want to have her to have to fight as hard as I fought right? And have to feel devalued by the education system that we have and by all the other mechanisms and systems that exist around us. So thank you very much for taking the time to listen to me today, and happy to open up to questions.
Yeah. Big round of applause first of all. Thank you.